I have to admit, I was not faithful in this relationship. And that's why she calls it a half. Think about what this woman just said. This guy was good in every way. He was tall, he was good looking, charming, gregarious, and he told her, no one will love you the way I love you. And how does she reward him? She rewards him with infidelity. Guys, this is the degeneracy of the modern American woman. And I've said this since I've been on these podcasts, since I've been on YouTube. The better you treat a woman, the worse she treats you. And the reason why this is, it's very, very simple, guys. The reason why women treat the men who treat them like ladies like garbage is because they're not, number one, they're not used to it. And number two, deep down, they don't think they deserve it. Melyssa Ford said it herself. She didn't think that she was lovable, yet here is this man professing his undying love for her. That's a turnoff for her. Would you like to know why? Because internally, women are turned off by men who don't understand who and what a woman really is. Okay? This is why sluts bang guys who are assholes. Guys are assholes to sluts because they're sluts, right? Oh, I hate assholes. Well, of course, but you still fuck them. And the reason you fuck them is because they see you for who you really are. They treat you authentically. Then if a guy comes along who appears to not really understand women, and he says, I love you, no one will ever love you the way I love you, that is a clear indication that a man is inept when dealing with modern American women. And so that subsequently turned her on. Women don't like inexperienced men. And when you tell a woman like this, no one will ever love you the way I do, that tells her that you are inexperienced. And women do not like inexperienced men. The same way that men do not like women who are too experienced. Let's continue.
Nothing that I'm proud of, but I just chalk that up to I was really, really young and I was hood famous. I was on the covers of magazines.
There it is. I was really, really young and hood famous. No. The reason you made those bad decisions is because bad decisions are easier to make than good decisions. It's not easy to make good decisions. It's not easy to refrain from being a hoe, right? Being a good woman, being a housewife, that is very, very difficult, especially in this day and age. It's easy to be a hoe. So she can miss me with this whole, well, I was young and dumb. No, young, attractive women are always dumb. Try again.
On your local newsstand. So
there she is.
Everybody recognized me. And that was another source of pressure that I felt being inside of this relationship rather than being free to explore all of my options.
Jesus Christ. Free to explore all of her options. Oh my God. Wow.
And so one day I was going through some drawers, folding laundry, placing clothes, in the drawers and such. And I found it. I found a box, and when I saw it, I said, please, God, don't let this be what I think it is.
Oh my God.
And I opened the box,
ring.
And there it was.
Unbelievable.
It was a ring.
There it is. Do you see the adverse reaction? Her adverse reaction to a man making the ultimate commitment to her. She said, please, God, don't let this be what I think it is. It just blows me away that women still think like this. And I've been on the Fresh and Fit podcast many, many times. And one thing that I try to consistently convey to the girls, and they understand this to be true, but every woman in her 30s, past the wall, 30, 35, every woman like Melyssa Ford, who had her fun, rode the carousel, did this and that and the other, and now are now single, childless, and cat ladies, every one of them had multiple opportunities to get married. Every single one of them. Dude, the average 30-year-old woman has been proposed to by at least two dudes. At least two of them. Dude, all these good-looking, listen, you can be past the wall and still look good, but you can tell on Fresh and Fit, there's some girls in their 30s that actually still look good. Every single one of those girls, even though they still look good, have had multiple engagements, and they broke them off for a stupid reason. And now they say, well, where are all the good men? Why don't I have my Mr. Right? Sweetheart, you had 5 Mr. Rights back when you were in your 20s. You just weren't ready for them right then. You wanted to still play the field, foolishly thinking that they would still be waiting for you in your 30s. No, that's not the case. Those dudes are fucking with the women who used to look like you.
And the only thing that I could think was that it was an engagement ring. It sure as hell was not a promise ring. We were way beyond that. We were not in high school. I was not wearing this boy's varsity jacket. This was an engagement ring.
There it is. This was an engagement ring. You want to know what's on her face right now? What's on her face right now is regret. It's regret. And those feelings of regret are now overwhelming, which is the reason why she's taking another sip of wine. Again, let me repeat what I said earlier. When you're watching videos like this and alcohol is involved, and this is universal of men and women, but if alcohol is involved, beer, wine, liquor, whatever the case may be, and they feel some sort of emotional rush, whether some sort of negative emotional rush, like regret, in other words, keeping something a little bit too real, what do? They cope by taking a drink. And look at her eyes. Her eyes are skyward, thinking, what might have been? What might have been? What if I had said yes to this dude? How would my life be different now? Dr. B84 in the chat says she realized she royally fucked up. That's exactly right. And this is why she is tipping that glass. Insane.
And if I knew this man the way that I knew him, that proposal was going to be very public. And that terrified me.
You want to know why that terrified her? You want to know why she was terrified that this engagement would go public? Is because then now all the side niggas, all the guys that she was fucking around, now they know she's married. Now they know she's engaged. Not that they still wouldn't smash, but there are a lot of guys who are like, okay, dude, if she's married or if she's engaged, I'm not going to fuck with her anymore. Some niggas will still hit. We know that. But the reason why she did not want this engagement to be publicized is because A, it was bad for her image, bad for business, and B, she didn't want all her side niggas knowing. Because when everybody knows that you're engaged or married, the attention dwindles. And listen, I'm sure that there are still dudes that holler at Sierra, but not quite as many as there were when she was single. When Sierra was single, dude, she was getting dick thrown at her from every direction. Now that stopped when she got with Future, but as soon as she got single and then got with Russell Wilson, she still gets dick thrown at her all the time. Just not as much because they know she's married.
I didn't want to have to say no in front of our friends and family and publicly humiliate him. He did not deserve that, but I also could not see myself saying yes in front of everybody just to save face and then later on have to break it to him like that.
This is why public proposals are for weak men. Guys, if you propose to your girl in public, you are weak. And the reason you are weak is exactly what Miss Ford just told us. The reason why you are proposing to her in public, and that's the reason why this dude did it. The reason why you are proposing to her in public is because you know there might be a chance that there might be a chance she says no. There might be a chance she says no. So subconsciously, men do these public engagements and try to get a yes because she's pressured to do so because she doesn't want to publicly humiliate you. And most women do say yes. But if a woman says yes and then later says, no, we already know they didn't want to be married anyway. No, if you know a woman wants to marry you, you propose to her in private. Do not propose to her in public. If you propose to her in public, you are weak and you have a feeling she might not say yes.
That this is not something that I was going to be able to go forward with. So what I did instead was I packed up all my belongings while he was out of town and put them in storage and flew back to Canada. And then I had the conversation about us breaking up over the phone.
Of course you did. See, this, again, just goes to show that women are cowards. This goes to show that women are cowards. Women are non-confrontational. They're cowards. They can tell the dude, yeah, I want to fuck you and yeah, I want to be with you. But when it comes to the breakup, so rather than being straight up with this guy and telling her and just telling the dude no, she decides to wait till he's out of town, pack up all his shit, pack up all her shit, put it in storage and move back to Canada. Wow, she really didn't like this guy.
I know what you're probably thinking as well.
Yep. Yep.
Yo, Melyssa, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it is, Melyssa. But now you're about to give us an excuse as to why it's not fucked up. You see, what happened was...
I know. It took years for me to make peace with this decision.
Stop the cap.
Let me give you guys one piece of advice. Women absolutely have no remorse when they break your heart. They have absolutely no remorse when they break your heart. They don't care. They don't care. The only reason why Melyssa's telling us that it took years for her to make peace is so that she doesn't look like a bad person. She just said it. You guys are thinking, man, that's fucked up. She knows there's no excuse for what she did. So what she's going to try to tell us is, well, it took me years to get over it. No, it didn't take you years to get over it. It did not take years to get over it. Melyssa Ford had absolutely, positively no problem ripping this guy's heart out of his chest, putting it on the ground and stomping it on the ground. She had absolutely no remorse. No remorse. But of course, if she thinks that we think that she has no remorse, then at that point, she's thinking that we think that she's a bad person. Listen, is Melyssa Ford a bad person or not? I don't know. I don't know the woman personally. But what you did was fucked up. And you know what you did was fucked up. That's why you're trying to tell us on the back end, well, it took me years to get over this. No, it didn't. It took you about 5 minutes. 5 minutes after you got on the plane, you're like, whew, thank God I'm out of here.
I have self-flagellated over this decision. I've beaten myself up every way to Sunday that you possibly can.
Oh boy, law number 24 of the 49 laws of Sharpe states that the more a woman tries to convince you of something, the more the opposite is true. This woman is trying to convince us that it actually hurt her to do this dude the way she did. She did this nigga dirty. She doesn't feel bad about it, and she's trying to convince us that she did. Nobody buys that. Not here anyway.
I tried to reconcile with him at one point.
Oh, you tried to reconcile. Oh, well, isn't that interesting? It sounds like guy number 1/2 was the one that got away, gentlemen. It sounds like guy number 1/2 is the one that got away. Here's how we know. Or the reason why we know is because she told us that she tried to reconcile with him. You want to know why she tried to reconcile with him? She tried to reconcile with him because her options were starting to dry up, right? She said she'd been engaged 2.5 times. And guys, it's the first time I'm watching this video. I didn't know where to start it. But she said she got engaged 2.5 times. The half time, that was guy number 1. That was her best shot. And over the years, she's being a video vixen and getting ran through by random niggas and this and that and the third. And she's like, man, my options are drying up. Let me see how guy number 1/2 is feeling. That's why she tried to reconcile with him, because her options were drying up. Here's another reason why we know he's probably the one that got away. Do you remember earlier in the video when she said she opened up the drawer, she opened up the box and said, please, I hope this is not what I think it is. It turns out to be an engagement ring, and she takes a sip of that wine, gazing at the sky in regret. This is the one that got away.
Which was a big mistake.
Of course it was. You want to know why it was a big... Oh, look. Oh my... Dude, this shit writes itself. She said she tried to reconcile with this guy, and that was a big mistake. Would you like to know why this was a big mistake? Would you like to know why it's a big mistake? Because he soundly rejected her. And Melyssa Ford has probably never been rejected in her life until just then. And when she thinks of the fact that he rejected her after trying to get back with her, there's that rush of pain. So what does she do to deal with the pain right now? She takes a swig. Just watch.
Big mistake.
Look at this. There it is. There it is, guys. This stuff writes itself. Anytime a woman is feeling a sense of regret or despair, or if somebody keeps a little bit too real, boom, there goes the drink. There goes the sip. She tips that glass. And the only reason why she says it was a mistake to try to reconcile is because he probably aired her ass out.
That is the 0.5.
Yep. I had an ugly duckling phase. Don't tell anybody. I destroyed all the pictures, so there's no proof. Before I became a video model and a model, and I was like known as the brain amongst all my friends. So I was studying forensic psychology.
What you went to school for. The box society places
Out of it.
pressure on us to check certain boxes. The box of
No, society doesn't put pressure on us to check certain boxes. You do. Women put pressure on men to check certain boxes. We don't need that many boxes checked. We just don't want you to be a hoe, and we don't want you to lie to us.
go to school and excel. You've got to pursue a career based on what you went to school for. And you've got to excel and become successful. And you have to have your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan.
Yeah, that's some nigga shit. What's your 20-year plan? That's the nigga community shit. All in your
while
20s.
you're in your 20s. Get married, get the white picket fence, and have 2.3 kids. Never figured out the point situation when it came to the statistics, because like, what's a third of a kid? But I digress on.
Oh my God, Melyssa, it's called an average, you stupid bitch. Are you fucking kidding me? This bitch doesn't, oh my God. Oh my God. Saquon Barkley averaged 5 point, well, that's probably well, anyway, it doesn't matter.
The problem with the boxes is that we never check in with ourselves. It is never, ever, ever our first thought as to, well, what is it that I actually want? I am now, welcoming into my circle a lot of women who checked all those boxes. And for all intents and purposes.
Look at this, guys. Look. Now she's talking about women who are just like her. Look at the regret and shame on her face when she thinks about all of the friends having this in common with her. Watch this.
Boxes. And
what Melyssa is telling us, what Melyssa is trying to tell us, is that she was sold a bad bill of goods. She realizes now that feminism was a lie. Feminism told her that she needs to go out and get this career and do all this in your 20s. She now knows that this is a lie, and so do the rest of her friends. And that's why she is looking skyward in regret at the thought of her friends.
For all intents and purposes, a lot of the stuff really actually did not work out. Yes.
You don't say. How about that? You don't say. Dr. B84 with the $10 super chat says basically she bought womanism hook, line, and sinker, and here we are now. Absolutely. What Melyssa Ford is attempting to tell us is that feminism lied to her. The girl power movement lied to her. The black community lied to her. Her girlfriends lied to her. That's what she's trying to say, but she doesn't want to say it. She doesn't want to say it directly.
They ended up with the children, but they ended up in sometimes a loveless, sometimes an abusive.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. They got some of the children. Translation, they now have baby daddies. Of course he's abusive, right?
And sometimes a marriage of convenience. Sometimes they didn't even get the marriage. They just got the kids. And
this is what happens when you fuck niggas. This is what happens when you marry. This is what happens when you carry before you marry.
They inherited a whole lot of struggle and strife.
No, they didn't inherit a whole lot of struggle and strife. They created their own struggle and strife. You see, Melyssa Ford here is already trying to separate accountability. She's already trying to absolve her friends who are all 2- and 3-time baby mamas. Well, they were in abusive relationships or marriages of convenience. What does that even mean?
And it's not to say that their choices are better or worse than the choices that I made. These are just choices. But for us women, I feel like our choices oftentimes have never really, really belonged to us. And when we have...
Your choices have never belonged to you? Are you kidding me with this? Melyssa, you are an autonomous, sentient being. Nobody made choices for you but you. You are the one. You chose. You are the one who chose to pack your shit, put it in a storage unit, and go back to Canada when guy number 1/2 proposed to you. You are the one who chose to be a video vixen. You are the one who chose to get ran through by the industry. Those choices are yours and yours alone.
Have tried to exert our sense of independence. We are shamed for it.
Yes, you are shamed for it. You want to know why you're shamed for it? And by the way, this exertion of independence means nothing more than sleeping around. Let me just rewind this. I love the way, dude, I swear to God, women will come up with 1,000 fucking ways to talk about or characterize sleeping around. Let's listen to this again.
And we have tried to exert our sense of independence, we are shamed for it.
Okay, you're not attempting to exert anything. You do exert your independence. And by independence, you mean sleeping around. Yes, you are going to be shamed for sleeping around. Why, Ms. Ford? Because sleeping around is easy. Being a hoe is easy. That's the answer to Phoenix Light Games. That's the answer to Phoenix Light Games question. It says Donovan genuinely asking, how do women listen to this woman and come to the conclusion that she's happy? I think women use each other's stories as an excuse to continue being a 304. You want to know why? Because again, being a hoe is easy. Being a good woman is hard. Being a good woman requires restraint. It requires temperance.
At this point, let me go on to the second engagement. So,
oh boy,
I'm 28 years old.
Oh boy,
and
epiphany phase.
And I have left the previous relationship, the 0.5, and I have met this man who, the minute I saw him,
oh boy,
I knew I was going to be with him. He just. You
can tell the way she feels about this man has everything to do with below the belt. This man was this is probably the most sexually attractive man she had ever seen to that point. And when she says, as soon as I saw him, I knew I wanted to be with him. Yeah, as soon as you saw him, you knew you wanted to fuck him. But of course, she's a woman and she's filtering herself because why? We know sluts are shamed.
This was it. I don't know how to describe it. And the second I heard his voice,
oh, there it is.
I said, I'm going to marry this man.
Yep.
I don't know what it was. Like, he had this Louisiana drawl. It's my favorite Southern accent.
Dude, let me guess. This guy probably dumped her. Well, let me just let her finish.
Huge, like 6'1", 246 pounds of hulking muscle. He had skin the color of like red clay. He had this thick neck, big round head. He had this crooked tooth that drove me wild. His flaws were like manna from heaven for me. And I loved his dirty draws and I could just sleep in his armpit right after he'd played a game of like pickup basketball. That is how much I loved this man.
Gentlemen, this is what true arousal sounds like. This woman just admitting to loving his dirty draws and sleeping in his armpit after he plays around to pick up basketball. Gentlemen, that is the very definition of burning desire.
And our courtship was a whirlwind.
A whirlwind. Translation, he was fucking other bitches and you couldn't stand it. This stuff writes itself. When a woman describes a courtship as a whirlwind, translation, it took me a while to get with him.
He wined and dined me.
Of course he did.
He bought me lovely, lovely gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I'd wake up to those baby blue Tiffany boxes just laid on the pillow next to me. We could go to my favorite store, and as long as I put on a little fashion show for him.
So just watch her face as she's describing this. Right now, she's glowing right now. Dude, she'd probably light up my studio. You want to know what else? Do you want to know what else is noticeably absent right now? Is that glass of wine in her hand. She does not have that glass of wine in her hand because she is reminiscing something. She is reminiscing a memory she finds very favorable, very pleasurable. You can see it in her face. It's coming out of her pores. I guarantee it. When she starts to talk about the downfall of the relationship, that glass of wine is going to be right back in her hands.
Everything I wanted, I could get. But when I say that the gifts really mattered nothing to me, it was this.
Stop the cap.
No, they always matter.
This man, he was the gift to me. That's just the fact. And we were 6 months into our relationship when the first sign of trouble appeared. I was in Denver for All-Star Weekend. And I was working for...
I was in Denver for All-Star Weekend. Now, whatever caused the end or the demise of this relationship, I can guarantee you that if he ended the relationship, it was probably because of this. This was his first red flag. She's telling us that, well, this was the first red flag on his side because, I started to see the bad in him. Yeah, guess what? He started to see the bad in you. Dude, you're going to Denver for the NBA All-Star game. No man is going to take you seriously.
BET at the time. So I had a lot of responsibilities. I had to make a lot of appearances. I had to interview a lot of people.
Here she goes, making excuses.
And a lot of those people were athletes.
There it is. No, look, if you are around high value men, especially professional athletes, no man's going to take you seriously. No man is going to take you seriously. Of course not.
And he was back home. And
there it is.
I did not know that he was jealous. It didn't even cross my mind.
There it is.
And so when I got home after an event and I was perturbed by...
After an event? I thought the event was All-Star Weekend. So there were other events? Keep an eye on that wine glass, guys, because this story appears to be about to take a turn for the worse.
An interaction with a strange man at a party that I had been at.
An interaction with a strange man at a party that I had been at. Translation, you were flirtatious.
He'd said something vile to me, and it hurt my feelings.
Uh-oh.
And all I wanted was to be comforted. And so I went back to my hotel room, and I called my boyfriend, and I just asked him to just tell me that he thought that I was beautiful and that he loved me. And he didn't do that. He just pressured me to tell him what happened.
Oh, my God. Of course he pressured you to tell him what happened. Do you want to know why? Because men who understand that when a woman... Oh, my God, guys, this stuff writes itself. This is in the 49 Laws of Sharpe. Never, ever, ever... How can I put this? Women will never volunteer disparaging information about themselves unless she's trying to cover something up. That's all there is to it. The reason why this dude wanted to know about the interaction is because he knows that she was probably leaving something out. This man said this vile thing to you. Why did he say this vile thing to you? It wasn't for no reason. This dude knows that he didn't, and I guess we're not going to know what vile thing he said. But this guy, her boyfriend, picked up on the fact that, okay, why would this guy say this to her? He wanted to know. He wanted to know the context. He didn't take what she said at face value. And this is where so many men get into trouble with women, is they take what women say at face value. They always take their side. Oh my God, I was at this party and this dude said something mean to me. Tell me you love me and tell me how beautiful I am. He's like, well, wait a minute. Why did he call you these horrible, vile names? And she took offense to that. Would you like to know why she took offense to that? Because at that point, she is either forced to tell the truth or make up a story on the fly. That's why he wanted to know about the interaction. Because men who know understand that anytime a woman tells you about an interaction between her and a dude, unsolicited, he knows there's more to the story. That's why he wanted to know what happened.
Why are you asking me to do this? And so I told him what happened, and he responded by saying,
pick up that wine, girl.
Why would I want to date such a weak bitch that would be that offended by what some strange guy has to say to her? There's just no way that he just said that to me.
There is. And you want to know what her boyfriend indirectly just told her? So his comments to her, I don't want to be with a woman who is a weak bitch because some stranger said something to him. No. What he is telling her is that there are costs to what you do. For every sequence, there is a consequence. Because of who you are and the way you move, people are going to have a certain opinion of you. And if you can't handle it, then you are weak. He probably told her in some variation, some way, shape, or form, you're Melyssa Ford. Everybody knows you're a video vixen. Men of all colors want to bang you. Men of all colors probably have banged you. This guy that you had this interaction with probably understands this as well. Part of the business. So if you can take all the good, all the accolades and all the thirst, but you can't take the other side, well, then you are a weak bitch, which you are. And that's why she took offense to it, because of what, class? He held her accountable.
I'm sorry, what? And he said, you heard me.
Ooh.
And I said, I'm really confused right now. And he was like, I'm sure you are. I felt like I was talking to a stranger.
Oh my God.
There's no way that this was the person that I had just spent the last 6 months with, completely absorbed with, you know, and in the throes of like love and ecstasy with. And I said, you know, I'm glad that I'm finding out who you really actually are now rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, I'm sure you are. Click. And hung up the phone on me.
Wow. Wow, look at the shock. Look at the shock and awe on her face. What likely happened is he probably found some shit out about her that he didn't want to find out. Either that, or he was, honestly, I think he was waiting for an opportunity to dump her like this. He had always felt some type of way that she was always at parties and on yachts and interviewing players and this and that and the third. He always had a problem with it. Ken Rose with a $2 Rumble rant. Appreciate that very much. Right? What he basically told her is, you're a hoe, and I don't want to be with a hoe. He couldn't quite say it, but he said it in his own way.
I cried myself to sleep that night. And the next day I had to cover a ladies' luncheon, the wives of the NBA.
Oh boy.
And so I had to be perfect and pretty. And I had to
sweetie.
act like the man of my dreams had not just told me to basically go F myself. And so...
Well, you didn't have to fuck yourself. I'm sure somebody else probably would have.
Oh, while I was getting ready, a large bouquet of flowers was delivered. My makeup artist said, Mel, you should read the card. And it said, you're beautiful to me and I love you. And I'm sorry. And then his name. I burst into tears. It just flew out of my face. So basically, my whole beat face just melted. And I called him and I said, I received your flowers. And he said, I am so sorry. And I told him, I'm going to forgive you.
Of course you're going to forgive him.
Because I love you. But you can't ever speak to me like that ever again. He's like, I promise I won't.
Guys, this dude is running game. He's running hot, cold game, right? When you're a man, and you know what is interesting? As offended as she was by that, and the fact that it made her cry herself to sleep, right? It made her cry herself to sleep, but she might not have liked it, but she absolutely respected it. Now, of course, on the back end, he sent her flowers and said that he was sorry. That was all she was looking for. She was looking for a reason to get back with him.
So whenever people wonder...
Oh my God, are you serious? The National Domestic Violence Hotline she has on her screen? I swear to God.
How do people end up in abusive relationships and why do you stay?
I'm sorry. Wait, hold up. I'm sorry. Like, I think something was lost in translation. I'm sorry. Where was the abuse? Right? Like, where was the abuse? I don't understand where the abuse was. He called you a weak bitch for not being able to handle the other side of what you do for a living. And you consider that abuse? And now you've got the National Domestic Violence Hotline splashed across your screen as though a man's words can be abusive? This is crazy town.
The reasons are aplenty, but I will start by saying that is not the way that it begins. It begins with love bombing.
Here we go.
It begins with flowers, candy, gifts, and the wonderful sex. And
that's what it is. That's what it was. It was the sex. That's why she went back.
The cuddles and the pillow talk. And this is how it begins. And it can last for a lengthy amount of time before that person really shows up. The true version of themselves shows up. And by that point, you start to bargain with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to apologize.
Oh,
and
boy.
their apologies are usually
Grandiose.
very, very sincere. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that they believe their apologies are real. They just have an illness inside of them.
So now it's
And I would
so the dude called you out for being a hoe, and all of a sudden that's an illness, right?
also venture to say that the first signs of abuse
Oh my
are
God.
usually not physical.
This is crazy.
And by the time
Here
it
we
gets to physicality, you start to reason that you were an active participant in it. You start to reason with yourself that you started the fight by
God.
angering him or saying something that was out of pocket.
I swear to God, every bitch claims that she was in an abusive relationship. Dr. B84 with the $5 super chat says, in this case, quote, abusive equals I cheated and I got caught. Yeah, exactly. Insane.
Or you reason with yourself that you are no shrinking violet. So it's not like you got hit and cowered in a corner. You fought back. These are the things that you reason and bargain with yourself that allow you to stay in this level of toxic relationship.
Break.
And so,
I bet she stayed with this nigga for 5 years. Watch.
as much as I would love to say that that was the last time that he spoke to me in that way, and that was the last time that I received it, that would not be the truth. We were together for another year and a half.
Okay.
And
Of course you were.
I accepted his marriage proposal.
Of course you did.
And a lot of you would probably be asking, why would you do that?
And I have the answer for you, Melyssa Ford, is because you are a damaged woman. You're a damaged woman. You're a damaged woman. Of course you accepted the marriage proposal because that was the man you wanted, but not the man you needed. You see, the man you needed, that was guy number 1/2. The guy you wanted, that was apparently this is guy number 2. Guys, that's all this is. Women routinely make bad decisions and blame everybody else. This dude talked to her the way she deserved to be talked to. If you're not a lady, you don't deserve to be talked to like a lady. This dude recognized that very, very clearly. And she accepted it because he had good dick game and he was tall and he was ripped and blah, 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 blah. These stories write themselves, guys.
Why would you accept the marriage proposal of this man?
Because you're a modern woman.
That was so abusive towards you.
Because damaged women are attracted to abusive men. That's all there is to it. That's why you accepted the marriage proposal. Look, the first guy said to her, no man will love you the way I love you. What does she do? She packs her shit, leaves the country. This next guy gets on the phone with her and's like, yo, you a hoe. Then he sends her flowers the next day and now she's back with him and accepted a marriage proposal. Jesus Christ.
And unfaithful towards you. And
there it is. He cheated on her. Dude, he cheated on her. He was allegedly abusive. He used to call her names. Yet she still accepted the marriage proposal. But the guy who worshiped the ground she walked on, who all of her friends and family loved, who told her sweet nothings and told her she was beautiful all the time, that's the guy that got left. And here's another thing. Her saying that, how can I put this? What she was doing when she asked him after that incident with that dude, I want you to tell me that you love me and tell me that I'm beautiful. Guys, that was a shit test. That was actually a variation of a shit test and a comfort test. And guess what? He failed. He absolutely passed that shit test. He told her exactly what the fuck it was, and she didn't like to hear it. She didn't want to hear it, but she needed to hear it. That's why all it took was an engraved apology to get her right back on that train.
really bad at it. Like, I found out everything all the time.
Right. And you stayed with him anyway. Guys, again, guy number 1/2, was good to her, never cheated on her. No one will ever love you like I do. This guy abuses her, calls her names, and cheats on her. And she stays with him for a year and a half.
And I don't really have an excuse for it.
No.
Other than
You are damaged. That's the reason.
I
Are damaged.
was addicted to him.
Yep.
Was working at BET at the time when we were dating. And more than once, observations were made about bruises on my body and how skinny I was getting, obviously from the stress.
Bruises on my body. Listen, women will say all the time, I bruise easily, but dude, a woman with bruises on her body a lot, that's a woman who's getting around. So that leads me to believe that she was probably cheating on him too.
And people had voiced concern for me, but I just shooed them away. We tussle. It's fine. No problem. But there really was a reason for concern. I stayed through it all
Of course you did.
and accepted the marriage proposal.
Of course you did.
The final straw for me was
He got another bitch pregnant?
his reaction to finding out that my mom was ill. I had gotten a phone call while I was out with him and his family, and he was acting up as per usual. And I got a phone call from my aunt telling me that my mom had been rushed to the hospital. I was in Texas. So in order for me to rush home to see my mom, I would have to leave Texas, go home to New York, pick up my passport, and then go to Canada. And when I told him what was going on, obviously I was looking for empathy and sympathy and compassion, and that was not what I got.
Of course not.
It was on this day that I finally could see the forest for the trees. If I stayed in this relationship,
I'd probably be dead.
in 10 years, I would have that white picket fence, and I would have the 2 kids, and I would be an abused woman,
Oh my God, here she goes.
hiding her bruises and her broken bones and her scars
Oh my God.
from her family
Okay.
and her friends
All right.
and society at large, because I was a forward-facing media personality / model.
God, that
My
bitch
mom's
was
sickness
bad.
was, strangely enough, a blessing in disguise. And that relationship came to an end. And that was the first full engagement. So 1.5. So that's where we are right now.
Any advice for any beautiful women of this hell?
His name is Tony Smith. I can say his name. Had this boyfriend.
Like, be careful what you wish for.
When I was 20 years old, I had this boyfriend. His name was Tony Smith. I can say his name because, I mean, like, you could throw a rock and hit a Tony Smith. I mean, it may as well be like John Doe. He was from Greensboro, North Carolina.
What? Uh-oh.
And he had come up to Toronto to play for the Toronto Argos, which is a football team in the Canadian Football
The
League.
CFL, yeah.
And he had played.
Okay, so she thinks. So, do you see what she just did? She says, I can say his name because you can throw a rock and hit a Tony Smith. You probably could. But you probably couldn't throw a rock and hit a Tony Smith who played in the CFL. So now we know exactly who he is.
In the National Football League, the NFL, for many years. And a lot of NFL players, you know, when they're not ready to hang up their cleats, you know, and not ready to, like, you know, kind of be put out to pasture, they'll
Yeah, Ghost 1978 says, how do you hide broken bones? Yeah, exactly. You don't. Which means there were no broken bones. That's just talk.
come to the CFL. And so I met Tony at this festival called Caravana in Toronto. He was so beautiful. My God. Instant attraction, obviously. And we started dating. We genuinely liked.
Do you guys hear how easy it is for attractive women to just have any guy they want? Right? I've never heard Justin Waller or a guy who looks like Justin Waller tell the story that, hey, you know, there was a beautiful girl over there, and so we started dating. It's just easy for women. She was beautiful, he was the most beautiful man ever, and so we started dating. That's just how easy it is for women to get into relationships.
Each other. We liked each other to the point where we could say really, really offhand things to each other. For example, he asked me what my fantasy was.
Okay.
And I got this look on my face. And I said, well, a fantasy would be, I guess, a menage with me and you and somebody else. And he was like, another woman? I said, no. With another guy.
Oh, hell to the no. Oh, no, 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 no. Sorry. That is not a menage a trois, sweet cheeks. That is a train. 2 chicks and a dude, that's menage a trois. 2 dudes and a chick is a train.
And he was like, really? He was like, do you have an idea as to who this guy is? I said, yeah. He's like, really?
Her ex-fiance who beat her up, watch.
You have to tell me. I said, it's your best friend. And I expect.
Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. I cannot believe what I just heard. This woman, in no uncertain terms, just told this man, I want to fuck your best friend. What kind of off the wall? This is how fucked up women are. This is how fucked up they are. In what universe did she think it was a good idea to actually tell this guy that she is dating that she wants to have sex with him and his best friend at the same time? This is insanity. Oh my God, this is absolute insanity.
Him to maybe slap me, I don't know what, but he threw his head back and roared with laughter.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
that's why this dude is not around anymore.
Wow, that was not the response I was expecting.
And
he said,
fucking crazy.
Do you want me to make that happen?
What?
I was like, oh my God, that is so sweet. No, absolutely not. It is just a fantasy. It is meant to stay there. But just the fact that you are open to it and don't make me feel shame for feeling this way. He was like, why would I make you feel that way?
Oh my God. Oh, this is fucking crazy.
And Tony, I don't know. He maybe he was just an anomaly, but wherever we would go, no matter how scantily I was dressed, he would let me move around the party as I felt the need to and interact with anybody. And he would just sit there and just watch me with a smile. And at one point, somebody stood next to him and asked him, like, aren't you afraid to let her walk around like that? And he was like, absolutely not. She's going home with me. I don't have anything to be worried about.
Oh my God. This is why she's no longer with this guy. This is why she's no longer with this guy. Because any man who is okay with his woman putting their relationship at risk by flirting with other people, that's not a man who really loves you. And yeah, it feels nice in the moment because you're able to sort of have your cake and eat it too. But at some point, she'll probably ask herself, well, he almost set up a train with me and his best friend, and he doesn't have a problem with me going around and flirting with these dudes. Does this guy really like me like that?
And you want to know something? He was absolutely right. His level of confidence and knowing.
Do you hear what she is doing? She is trying to make it. She's trying to convince guys. Oh boy, this is insidious. She's not talking to women here, gentlemen. She ain't talking to women here. Now she's talking to the men. And what she is trying to say is that when I was at my absolute peak, I was drop dead gorgeous. I was with a man who was so confident in his relationship with me, he openly and freely just let me go around and flirt with other people. And now she's about to tell us, and so what she's trying to tell us, guys, nothing is more confident than a man who is secure within himself. That's what she's trying to do. Girls who look like me are turned on by guys who let us do things that make us look single. Gentlemen, if you are watching this, Do not believe what this woman is indirectly trying to tell you. This is insidious, what she is doing here. This is insidious. Not only is she misleading women with this whole ridiculous video, now she's misleading men. Incredible.
That I had eyes for nobody but him was what made him so much more sexy to me.
You had eyes for nobody but him, yet you were flirting with everybody, right?
So much more attractive and made
This
me
is bullshit.
like and love him so much more. I wish that I could say that the vast majority of my relationships went like this,
So what happened to him? Where did he go? Where did he go?
but they didn't.
Of course.
They didn't.
Of course not.
I'm going to take a sip of wine.
I'm going to take a sip of wine. Right on cue. Right on cue. Right on cue. Of course you are.
I was raised as an only child. My father was a Rolling Stone, and I am the youngest of 11. But I am my mother's only child, and I was raised in a two-parent household, just me on my own. I used to wish constantly for a brother and a sister or a twin. It was around 6 when I figured out the twin thing was not going to happen. But I really
Yeah, that wasn't funny.
wanted a brother or a sister because
You were lonely.
I was lonely.
Yeah.
And I was smack in the middle of a very tumultuous marriage. Some of my earliest memories as a child are of my parents arguing.
Oh, shit, okay. Yes, sir. So it appears that Melyssa Ford is a nigga and a snow bunny as parents. I ain't mad at that.
Physically fighting each other. At one point, I was 5 and I got in the middle.
I think what she is trying to do here is she is trying to rationalize her bad behavior. The reason I am the way I am now is because of this marriage.
Of my parents physically fighting each other. My mom was holding a glass pitcher above her head and was prepared to smash it on my dad's head. And I want to say that this was in defense of herself. This was her protecting herself. So, needless to say,
This is funny. So now so here's what she's trying to do with this little story. Here's what she's trying to do with this little story. She is trying to tell us that the reason why, and stay with me here, guys, because I think a lot of you guys might have the wrong idea about this, but I am going to give you exactly what's happening. Here is exactly what's happening. She is now trying to validate these claims that her second fiance, second and a half, was abusive. I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense at all. Because if this man really were abusive, then why wouldn't you tell us his name? Right? The guy ran around on you, he cheated on you, he called you names. I don't believe this dude ever put a hand on her. And so the reason why she's telling us this story is she's trying to lead us. She's trying to lead us here. She wants us to think, she witnessed an abusive relationship, which is why she was in an abusive relationship. She's trying to validate her claims of abuse from this second guy. And she thinks that by telling us this story about her father being abusive towards her mother and physically fighting, she thinks that in turn validates that she really did go through that. Because we all know that boys and girls raised in relationships that are physically abusive, they often seek these relationships out. And so what Melyssa is trying to do here is she's trying to tell us, see, I was in an abusive relationship, because Melyssa knows as well as anybody that women always claim that they're in abusive relationships. But there's never any truth. It's unfounded because women can say anything. So she says, you know what? I think I'll take him down. I think I'll take him on a trip down memory lane. And I'll tell them that I witnessed this abusive relationship. That means that I really was in an abusive relationship, which means that what I'm saying is true. She thinks that by telling us about this story when she was a kid, she thinks we now believe that she really was in a physically abusive relationship, hiding her broken bones. Yeah, whatever. Nice try, Melyssa. It's ridiculous.
My first introduction to marriage and how men and women, the expectation of how they interact with each other on a romantic level was very, 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 very traumatizing.
Of course it was.
And they didn't do anything to try to correct it. They didn't sit me down and explain things to me or apologize to me. I think that that's something that parents really miss the mark on a lot of the time, is that you are not perfect. You are human. And to be a human being is to err. And sometimes you do things to unintentionally harm your children or traumatize them, and they deserve an explanation and they deserve an apology. When my parents were not arguing with each other, they were staying as far away from each other as possible. And what that meant was I was left home alone a lot.
Oh boy.
So one of the main reasons why my parents never said no to me when I wanted another animal. I had nothing but cats and dogs and birds and fish.
That's why you're a cat lady. I'm a cat lady. I'm a cat lady because I was lonely and my parents never said no to buying animals. Dude, you know what this is like? This is funny. You guys remember when Superhead tried to tell us that her nickname, which is Superhead, didn't come from the fact that she absolutely gives sloppy toppy the best in the business? Remember when she came out with that bull? Well, the reason why they called me Superhead is because I'm an adjunct professor. And I was so, I had such this big brain, they called me Superhead. Didn't nobody buy that. And nobody's buying this, Melyssa. Good God.
All over the house. I feel like animals saved me. It sounds strange.
No, sweetheart. You have not been saved, baby. No. You have not been saved. You are out on a plank after the Titanic sunk. No one, man, woman, animal has saved you. You are still broken.
I'm Mowgli or something from what's that book called?
The Jungle
Book. Yeah, I'm Mowgli from the Jungle Book. But yeah, that was my reality. My parents would come home late at night. The animals were the ones that took care of me. Thankfully, I didn't burn down the house. But this left an imprint on my brain as to the way that men and women interact with each other.
Yep, there it is. See?
And it left...
See, there it is. There it is. She's doing exactly what I said she was doing. She's doing exactly what I said she was doing. She knew that people would be skeptical of her physical abuse claims, right? And so she's trying to give us a history of her childhood to validate that claim. Well, he must have been really physically abusive because her parents were in a physically abusive relationship.
Left me with a very serious internalized distrust of men. I think that this is where I developed the disconnect of wanting to create progeny. I just did not feel that.
No, that's not true. Now she's trying to give us an excuse as to why she was a hoe. Black Russian Lam in the chat says, #mental gymnastics. Right? So she wants us to believe that because of her parents' relationship, she didn't want to have kids. No, you didn't want to have kids because you wanted to be a hoe. That's why. Dude, the number one reason women get Noit Roba spelled backwards is because they don't want to ruin their bodies. That's it. End of discussion.
That urge, like other women have, to have children. And it is definitely intertwined with what I witnessed from a very early age as to my parents and their dysfunction. I ended up getting an IUD implanted in my uterus.
There you go. There you go. Do you see how she is trying to justify all of her actions? She's trying to justify all of her actions. And so she's giving us this bullshit narrative about the fact that her parents' abusive relationship made her not want to have kids. No, you wanted to be a hoe. That's why you didn't want to have kids. And she knows that that's what people are going to think. Just like she thought people were going to think that those claims of domestic abuse were false as well. She's like, you know what? I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to tell them about my mom and dad's abusive relationship, and that will in turn validate my abusive relationship. And then I'm going to tell them about the fact that that same abusive relationship, that's the reason why I don't want to have kids. Stop it.
And when I say that sucker was Fort Knox, nothing was getting through that mofo.
That's right. Nothing was getting through that mofo, which means what, class? She's probably got the DNA of over 300 niggas floating around in her system. And that 1,000 cock stare is not too far behind.
And it stayed in so long that it ultimately made the decision for me. But yet again,
Ultimately made the decision for me. No, baby, you made the decision. See, again, she's trying to blame the fact she's already given us two different excuses as to why she's childless. I'm childless because I didn't want kids. The reason why I didn't want kids is because my mother and father's relationship was abusive. So she makes the decision to get the IUD, but then later says the IUD made that decision for me. No, you made the decision. This is insane. She's literally removing all accountability from her actions. She is sitting here trying to justify that now 48 years of bad decisions, and she's failing miserably at it.
it's not like I felt any source of pressure. Which leads me to the last engagement. When I was approximately 36, 37 years old.
Uh-oh.
And I'll be honest, I thought that I was in love with this man.
Of course you did.
But I wasn't. What I was traumatized from
all the dick, baby. All the dick. Guys, there are a lot of women like this woman on your screen, Melyssa Ford. She's got PTSD. Like legit post-traumatic stress disorder. These women do not understand the psychological damage that passing your body around to hordes of men does to you. It is absolutely damaging. It fucks with your mind. It fucks with your sense of self-worth. It fucks with your self-esteem. It destroys you. Sleeping around with women is so destructive that when they finally jump off the carousel, that's when the PTSD sets in. Unbelievable.
experience that had happened to me on a cruise ship where
Oh, God, a cruise
I
ship.
was almost raped.
Oh, my God.
And
Oh, my God.
I could not be in the room alone with my own shadow. I was so traumatized by what had happened to me that when this man appeared, he was offering safety and security.
Ah, yes. Shout out to Captain Save-A-Ho. Yep. Captain Save-A-Ho. That's exactly who this guy was. This was Captain Save-A-Ho. She's 36. She's traumatized. She's damaged goods. She no longer has the value she once used to have. And along came this guy.
He was physically huge, but he also came with a very secure lifestyle
Translation, he had money.
and a lot of security.
Yep.
And so I felt safe. And that's the only thing I was looking for. I was looking for safety. And so I lied to myself. And it was very easy to do that, to just dive in head first, forget the rocks below.
Yeah, that's called being impulsive, sweetheart. That's not lying to yourself. Because you're acknowledging the fact that this was probably a bad decision, but you made the bad decision anyway. So you didn't lie to yourself. You're just being impulsive.
And during the process of this relationship, I started to realize that I was losing myself completely and totally. Friends had started to notice,
Oh, God.
you know, Mel, you're paying a lot of attention to his career, but what are you doing about yours?
Guys, she wasn't attracted to this guy. She wasn't attracted to this guy physically, sexually. Remember the first guy? She says the first time, remember the first half guy, tall, good looking, handsome, charming, right? The second guy, she said, the minute I saw him, I knew I wanted to be with him. The third guy, the first thing she noticed about him was security. She says he was physically huge, physically large, She didn't say anything about her being physically or sexually attracted to him. And this ultimately is probably why the relationship ended. And what she's trying to do, now she's trying to set us up again. She's trying to tell us that outside influences allowed her to see the light, see the error in her ways. Girl, you're losing yourself. What about your career? Don't worry about his. And so I ultimately had to make I reluctantly broke off the engagement. No, you broke off the engagement because you weren't attracted to him. That's all there is to it. And women do this all the time, is they dump who they need for what they want. This is what she did with guy number 1/2. This guy was the guy she needed, wasn't the guy she wanted.
And I didn't want to hear it. I actually did not want to even hear my own name. I didn't know what it meant to be Melyssa Ford anymore.
Yeah, you did.
I had no clue. The sound of my own name gave me goosebumps. And not-
Gentlemen, what you are hearing now are the early symptoms of PTSD. Not being able to look at yourself in the mirror. And as a matter of fact, I might actually call it post-traumatic dick disorder. PSDD. It's actually apropos. She's got PSDD, post-traumatic, PTSD, post-traumatic dick disorder, PTDD. That's all this is. That's all this is.
Not in the best way. I was having a massive identity crisis. And so when he proposed, he didn't even get the full words out before I said yes.
When he proposed, he didn't even get the full words out before I said yes. Yes, sweetie. Yes. You want to know why he couldn't get the words out? Because you were looking for a life raft. Of course you said yes. You're 36. Your options are dwindling. Men don't look at you like they once did 10 years ago. You're goddamn right you're going to say yes. This stuff writes itself, man. I swear to God.
Because I was running from myself.
No, you weren't. No, it had nothing to do with you running from yourself. You knew that your options were dwindling and limited. That's why you said yes. This is insane.
I was running from my truth. I was running from the healing journey that was on the horizon. I was
this is
running.
so funny.
And I was trying to put the blinders on.
Oh my God.
But there was always that like internal sense of that steel core of resilience and tenacity inside of me.
Here we
said,
go.
Melyssa,
Blah, blah,
this
blah,
is
blah,
not
blah.
your truth. This is
Told you. There it is. There it is. She was not attracted to this guy. And one of the reasons that she was not really attracted or aroused to or by this guy. Sorry about that. My camera's. Well, I'll keep talking. The reason why she ended up leaving this dude is for the same reason she left guy number 1/2, is because he showed her that he was inept at dealing with women. He valued her higher than she valued herself. And this is why we say, the better you treat a slut, the worse she treats you. And the reason for that is because deep down they know they don't deserve to be treated like a lady because they're hoes. And if a man comes along and gives them undue reverence, undue respect, that's unattractive to them. In their mind, subconsciously, they're thinking, how could you be so stupid? I'm Melyssa Ford. I've been run through by niggas in the industry for the last decade and a half of my life. And you want to protect me and put a ring on my finger? She's not thinking about this in her frontal lobe or whatever. I'm not a brain guy. But in the back of her mind and in her firmware, this is always running. Women reward the men who treat them the way they deserve to be treated. This is why good girls don't treat assholes well. If you're an asshole to a woman and that's a turnoff to her, then guess what? She's a good girl. But if you're an asshole to a woman and she rewards you with sex, that's a woman who's damaged. That's a woman who's broken. Women reward the men who treat them the way they truly know they deserve to be treated. That's why sluts complain all the time. They complain all day, every day. Well, guys are assholes, blah, 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 blah. But the reason why they keep fucking these assholes is because these assholes are the only ones who see them for who they really are. And they're not afraid to show it.
This is not your path.
Told you.
This is not it.
This is it. Told you.
And as scary as it was to keep trying to align myself with my internal compass.
Oh my God. Listen to all this word salad.
Obviously, you make all these decisions, but it's got to bring you back pointing due north, which leads me to where I am now.
Yes. Single, never been married, childless, cat lady. I knew for a fact that she was going to break off this engagement by this guy. I knew she was going to. Any man who commits to a woman like her is not a man of value. Any man who commits to a woman like her is not a man of value. That's why she ran in the other direction. She's like, dude, I don't deserve this dude. What the fuck does he think? What the fuck makes him think that I deserve him? Like, I know I'm trash. I know I don't have any worth at this point. What the fuck do you see? And it's funny. A lot of women say, well, he sees things in me that I never saw in myself. No. Those are the words of a simp. Ay, 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 ay.
48, child-free.
There
I've
it
never
is.
been married. And honestly, with zero regrets.
Stop the cap.
So this woman has been engaged. This woman has been engaged twice. Two of those men were actually halfway decent to her. And the two men that treated her the best were the two men that got the boot the quickest. She gave guy number one half the boot in 6 months. She gave the second guy the boot probably in less time than that. She said yes to the proposal because she was running out of time, but deep down she knew she'd want to marry that dude. No, she wanted to marry guy number two. She probably still talks to him, to be honest with you.
Did you ever decide to freeze your eggs?
Yeah, the freezing eggs conversation came up around.
Okay, I think we've seen enough of